In this video, we're going to take a look at arrays in JavaScript. So go ahead and get your starter code for Activity 5.9 and we'll get started. All right, so think about arrays as a way to store data. So suppose you have a sequence of values and you want to store them. So for example, you have a series of student quiz grades. So for example, you've got, let's say, a bunch of numbers, 99, 100, 80, 75, and 85. How could you do it? Well, so far, you might store each value in different variables. So for example, you might create 5 different variables. You might have var grade 1 equal 99, var grade 2 equal 100, var grade 3 equal 80, etc. But then you'd have to keep track of all these different variables, how many you have, etc. And what if you had 100 grades? What would happen then? So in JavaScript, an array is a data structure that contains a sequence or collection of elements. And let's go and take a look at what makes up an array. So first off, an array is an index, has an index, and a value. So kind of think about an index as the position, and the values are, again, kind of like the values that you've stored before in variables. So again, the index indicates the position of the elements, and the first index is 0. So if you remember when we've looked at while loops and for loops, you might have noticed that we typically started with that starting stepper variable at 0, and the reason why is because the first index value in an first index in an array is 0. All right, so an array can dynamically grow and shrink as needed, and you don't need to specify the array size when creating it. So for example, if you just wanted to create an empty array, you would just say var grades equal open close square bracket, and that would just create an array, just an empty one, and grades would be assigned to it. So some syntax of arrays. So first off, typically you'd want to save a variable name to an array, and then you have your open bracket, and then you have your elements inside of the array, and the elements are separated by commas. So you're going to need to use those square brackets here, and then you put the elements inside, separated by commas, and JavaScript loves semicolons, so remember at the end of every JavaScript statement, you've always got a semicolon. Now, to loop through an array, you could do something like this, and we'll kind of program this in a second here. You would have something like for var I equals 0, just like we've done before, semicolon. And then we would have I less than grades.length. Now length automatically determines the size of the array, so you don't have to hard code the value here, you just put .length, and if the array size changes in the future, this code would still work because again, length automatically determines the size of the array. You don't have to worry about it. Now this code inside of here, this console log I plus grades bracket I, now that's using that stepper variable I that we've used before as the index position. So again, this code is going to loop through the grades array and then print out the elements as well as the index positions. So to access an item in the array, all you need to do is specify the name of the array and the index number in square brackets. So for example, the first element, because we start counting at 0, would be grades bracket 0. Second element would be grades bracket 1. And the third element would be grades bracket 2, etc. Now again, array.length returns the length of the array. And so if you think about it, the last index, that last index value is always going to be 1 less than the length of the array. So we've got 5 elements here. That last index is going to be grades.length minus 1. Now to add or append a new item to the end of the array, you would simply just say append item, note the capital I here, open parenthesis, name of the array, in this case would be grades, comma, 100, which is the item here. And note that append item adds to the very end of the array. All right, so in example 1, let's create a function named example 1, and we're going to create an array named grades with the values 99, 100, 80, 75, 80, and 100. And again, we're going to print the index value and the values of the elements. So let's go over to our code here. This is our starter code. Let me just run it, make sure it works. And it's looking good so far. Now let's go down to example 1. So again, I'm going to create an array called grades. And I'm going to give it the values of 99, 100, 80, 75, 80, and 100. And then I want to print out the index value and the values of each element. So let's create like a header here, as we've done before, and I'll say index. We do our /t here, and we'll say value. Actually, I'll say elements here, and now I'll do our for loop here. So we have for var I equals 0, I less than grades.length, and then we'll say I plus plus, and then we'll have our console.log I plus /t plus grades bracket I. Okay, so let's give this code a test here and see what happens. So we've got E1, and again we see our index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we've got our elements 99, 100, 80, 75, etc. Actually, yeah, okay, good. All right. Now let's take a look at our second example here. So we're going to create a function named example2, and we're going to have slightly different grades here. We'll have 99, 100, 80, 75, and 80, and we want to print the first and last elements of the array. So let's go over here, and again I'm going to say var grades equal 99, 100, 80, 75, and 80. And this time I want to print out the first and last elements of the array. So let's take a look at how that would work here. So we know that the first elements is going to be grades bracket 0. Okay, let's test that out here. We'll say E2 this time, and we've got first element 99, is that right? Yes, that's right over here. And again, let's go for our last element here. And so this one's going to be a little bit different because we can take advantage of grades.length -1 over here. And let's see how that works. So again, E2, and is that right? 80 is our last element. Yes, it is. All right, great. So now let's look at our third example. So let's create a function named example3, and we'll create an array named grades with the values 45, 70, and 83. And then we want to ask the user for a number, and then add this number to the end of the array. Lastly, we'll loop through the index values and elements to print the array. All right, so let's take a look at this here. So we've got grades equal bracket 45, 70, and 83. So now we've got, we want to ask the user for a number. Oops. We want to ask the user for a number. So we'll say new grade perhaps. Var new grade equal prompt num new grade. Okay. And then we want to append it. So to append it, we use append item, and then we specify the array name, which in this case is grades, and then we've got new grade here. And then just like we've done before, we're going to print out the index and the elements. So let's use our for loop here. And we've got our console log I plus grades here. And so let's take a look at how this works here. So we'll say E3 this time. We're going to add a new grade. Let's say we have a new grade of 99. So again, now we've got the original 45, 70, 83, and 99 is now the last one here. And that looks pretty good. All right, I hope that helps, and I'll see you in the next video.